Now it's time for my absolute favorite selection tool, the Quick Selection tool. The Quick Selection tool is located below the Lasso tool, and one click will activate it. The way I am going to use this tool is that the Quick Selection tool will paint in selection areas. I will click and start dragging, and without getting anywhere near this cable or this building, Photoshop magically found the selection area for me. In fact, that's a key to making this tool work. Do not try to be very close to the edge of the object you want to select. Stay a few pixels inside, so a small click and drag here added more to that selection, and I am going to let this cable stay in the selection. My goal with this image is I had a shot where I love the richness of this color in this building, and the shade of the blue, and the clarity of this sign, but my sky was completely washed out. If I hit the icon next to the top layer in this image, this is the original sky captured and themed by my camera. But in correcting for the rest of the photo, it gets washed out or wiped out. So all I did was take the original, darkened it, save a version, correct the rest of the photo until it looked perfect, and save a version, and then make them 2 layers on top of one another in Photoshop. So with Quick Selection, I have got the top portion of the sky selected, and now I am going to grab the bottom. If you ever find that it's grabbing too much, we will zoom in with Command plus or Control plus. Here, a little bit of the building where grabs too much, so I will undo that selection. The Quick Selection tool has no tolerance setting. It uses brush size in order to make your selections more accurate. So if you wheel down a little bit so I can see the area I want to select, I can come up to the options bar and dial my brush size down. I will shoot for around 9 pixels. In the safest way to get one of these panels to disappear is click in the dark gray area here. That way we don't make a mark on the image. It's just a safety spot that I use. Now if I click and drag, staying completely inside, but the darker building was protected, and I am okay with this. I am going to be blending in layers anyway. Now for this tiny little area, I do not want the circle to cross in the dark gray of the sign. I want it only to touch in the sky, and here sometimes I will just 2 quick clicks to include a little more, and then click and drag here, staying well in the center. Photoshop found the edges for me. I am just using my wheel on my mouse to wheel up or down. This brush is way too big, so instead of dialing it down up here on my keyboard, I am going to use the left bracket key that is next to the letter P on your keyboard. Immediately to the right of the P is your left bracket and right bracket on most keyboards. The key also has the curly brace on it. And now I will drag down a bit to include this part of the sky, and I will do View, Fit on Screen to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, here comes the magic. The sky is selected, but ultimately I want that to be cut away, and I want the buildings and the sign to be protected. So I am going to select the inverse, or the opposite, telling Photoshop to keep this. That's the popular tricks. Grab the most solid area to make your selection, and then narrow it down to what you really want to keep by selecting the inverse or the opposite. Once I have selected the inverse to protect this area, I will go to the bottom of my Layers panel and hit the Add Layer Mask button. And this original sky that was captured in my original shot is magically added. A great way to see before and after is a layer mask trick. You can hold down just your Shift key and click on the black and white layer mask thumbnail. Shift click to see both the mask. Shift click again turns it back on. Shift click, and now I have got a much more compelling, interesting overall shot. There are many other things you could do. You could color correct and light in the sky a bit more. You could paint with blending, but my goal with this exercise was just to introduce painting with the Quick Selection tool. Try this with some images of your own, and keep in mind the secret to this tool. If I hide this layer and click on the dark layer, and I wanted to select it, select the dark side just by clicking and dragging and not getting too close to the edge. Click and drag down, then I got a bit too much, but I could always subtract and clean that up. Often this tool does some much better job subtracting than it does on your initial click and drag. So there I have a great quick selection of the darker version of the side. Once you master this tool, you will find a selection time can be cut in half. I use this tool 90% of the time to make precise selection. I hope you enjoy and learn to love this tool as much as I do.